So currently in our world, there's a lot of talk with regards to who has the authority to do what, especially during this pandemic. Does the president have ultimate authority? Do the governors have authority over their states? Do county and local civic officials have the authority to do certain things? It's calling into question who is sovereign, who has the right to rule, and who should we submit to? And it's an interesting question because it reminds me of a recent study that I did in the book of 1 Samuel. In the book of 1 Samuel, following the period of the Judges, in Judges there's a common refrain at the end of the book. There was no king in Israel. Everybody did what was right in their own eyes. And as you move into the story of 1 Samuel, what you have is Israel seeking to have a king like the rest of the nations. Samuel reminds them that they will put a king in place. However, he is going to rule with an authority that is going to be fallen, that is going to be broken. And ultimately, what they have done by seeking a king is rejecting God as their king. But in all of this, there's a recognition of this. And in 1 Samuel chapter 12, we read this in verse 14 and following. If you will fear the Lord and serve him and obey his voice and not rebel against the commandments of the Lord, and if both you and your king who reigns over you will follow the Lord your God, it will be well. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord your God, but rebel against the commandments of the Lord, then the hand of the Lord will be against you and your king. You see, friends, for Israel, this was a losing proposition. Because the reality is, for each one of us, including those in rule and authority over us on earth, every single one of us is fallen. Every single one of us sins. And as such, we are always prone to rebel against the Lord our God and have his hand against us. But the beauty of that is that we do not need to lay the weight of that on our civic authorities, our president, our governors, our county leaders, our civic leaders in our cities, because what God has given us is the ability to submit our allegiance and our desires to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, King Jesus. Jesus Christ is the ultimate rule and authority for us. And as we submit our allegiance to him, as we say that our King is King Jesus, what we can do is we can put ourselves in the proper place of being able to understand and pray for our civic leaders. Friends, our civic leaders have a very difficult job. It's an almost near impossible job to try to manage and rule the things of this world on earth. They have hard decisions to make. They're not going to make the best decision always. They may even make the wrong decisions. They may align themselves with the wrong people and even have the wrong heart in that. Could I commend to you that according to Romans 13, they have been placed there by God. And as such, while we may not be able to trust every decision every civic leader makes, we can commit to praying for them. We can commit to submitting to them, even in the midst of our disagreements with them. Because ultimately what we were saying is, while we can submit to certain things and laws and rules and regulations here on earth, we are not going to put the weight of our lives onto your shoulders, because ultimately we submit to a different king. We submit to a higher king. We submit to a king who called creation into existence. So as we think about choosing the right king, would you start with choosing King Jesus? And then from there, having grace for our civic leaders who have been tasked with ruling here on earth. May you pray for their wisdom. May you pray for their guidance. May you pray that God would work in a way that would speak through them in order for the best things for our world, in as fallen as it is, but ultimately not trusting in them for the right answers and the right response, but ultimately trusting in the right King, trusting in Jesus for his greatest good for our lives as we serve him and as we treasure him together.